There is something subtle, almost unsettling, that happens when a person truly begins to awaken. And by awakening, I do not mean the body's rise from sleep or the stirring of thought after morning tea. I mean when the heart begins to see through the veil of illusion, when the dream of separation fades for a moment and the soul glimpses its own origin. It is both marvelous and weighty. But there is something no one tells you about awakening. Once you have tasted it, there are truths you cannot share, not because they are secret in a ritual sense, but because they are too vast for the tongue. They are oceans that no teacup of language can hold. And when one tries to pour them out, confusion follows instead of clarity. Ibn Arabi once said, "There are knowledges that cannot be spoken, only lived." The awakened heart learns this not to guard its truth with pride, but with reverence. For what belongs to unveiling, kashf, cannot be passed like information. It is like fragrance. One can describe it endlessly, yet until another inhales it, they do not know its scent. The first thing you must never attempt to share is your direct encounter with awakening itself. When the veil first lifts, a fire rises in you. The urge to tell everyone, "Look, it's all here." We've been searching in shadows. You wish to shake the world awake, but what happens? The world stares back in confusion, polite yet distant. They cannot receive what they have not yet tasted. The saints called this Sir, the secret between the soul and God. It cannot be spoken because it is not a thought. It is the difference between reading the sea and being swallowed by its waves. How can you describe water to one who has never been wet? You can speak of motion, of reflection, of sound, but never of touch. There was once a man who, while walking under the stars, saw through everything. He saw that there was no he walking, only the walking of God in form, the movement of the real through what appeared as man and night. He ran home trembling with joy, told his wife, and she smiled softly. "That's nice, dear. Don't forget to lock the door." And in that moment, he understood. Truth cannot be told, it must be realized. To describe awakening is to reduce it. The moment you claim, "I am awakened," you create a duality, you and those who are not. But in the vision of truth, there is no such divide. The knower, the knowing, and the known are one. So the wise fall silent, not from fear, but from understanding. Their silence speaks more deeply than words could. Ibn Arabi warned, "The one who speaks of union divides it." This is why those who see often veil their seeing. They know that words can only point like a finger toward the moon. And people fascinated by the finger forget to look at the moon. They ask, "What practice did you use? What secret path led you there?" But awakening is not a result of effort. It is the dissolving of effort. It happens when striving ceases and you see what was always present. The second thing you must never share is the exact method that opened your inner door. What unlocked your heart was meant for you. Your temperament, your time, your trial. What cured your pain may be another's poison. As the physician prescribes differently for each patient, so does the divine tailor each awakening to the soul's readiness. Your path was not a formula, it was a meeting. To hand it to another as a recipe is to reduce the living to the mechanical. As Ibn Arabi said, "No two journeys to God are alike, yet all end in the same presence." So keep your experience sacred, not secret, guarded in silence, not pride. Let your life, not your lips, reveal your seeing. For when the light is true, it needs no declaration. It shines by itself. No two hearts are healed by the same medicine. One man's darkness comes from heedlessness, another's from fear, another's from the ache of separation. The same remedy cannot cure them all. In fact, it may wound what it was meant to heal. Spiritual practices are no different. What brings one seeker to light may cast another into confusion, for every soul's knot is tied differently. Ibn Arabi said, "The paths to God are as numerous as the breaths of creation. Each heart has its own doorway to the real, and the key that opens one may lock another. What made me see may blind you. If I found awakening through silence and you through service, it is because the beloved meets each lover in a language their heart understands." There was once a disciple who complained to his master, "I have prayed and fasted for years as you said, yet I have not found God." The master smiled. "Then stop praying as you think you should and start seeing that he was never absent." The disciple was shocked. "But you told me to pray." The master replied, "Yes. When you were asleep, prayer was your alarm. Now that you are awake, the alarm must stop. You see, the moment you give someone a method, they turn it into a ladder. They begin to climb toward a future self they imagine to be closer to God. But the divine is not waiting above. He is present in the step itself. Awakening does not happen after effort. It happens when effort falls away. It is not about becoming something more. It is about ceasing to pretend you are less. The third thing that must never be shared is your insight into others. When the veil begins to lift, the world becomes transparent. You see people's masks, their wounds, their secret fears. You notice how they hide from themselves, how they wear personalities like shields, and the ego whispers, "Tell them, awaken them." But this is the most delicate danger, for unveiling another's truth before its time is a form of violence. A saint once said, "Do not tear open what God has wrapped. The cocoon that looks like confinement is protection. If you cut it before the butterfly is ready, you kill the wings before they're born." Each soul must wrestle with its own illusions. The struggle gives it strength. To reveal too soon what someone cannot bear to see is to harm them in the name of helping. There was once a dervish who saw through his friend's pride and arrogance. He knew that pride was what kept his friend in sorrow, but he also knew the man's heart was not yet soft enough for that truth. So instead of preaching, he listened. He let time polish what words could not. And one day the friend came to him and said, "I think I have been unjust to others." That was the moment the veil lifted, not by force, but by readiness. Awakened souls understand that each heart blooms in its own season. They do not pull at the petals of another's becoming. They trust the timing of the real. You cannot force a dawn. You can only open the window and wait for the light. The fourth thing you must never share is your vision of the void, the experience of emptiness, of lâcher. Nothing exists but Him. This is the most dangerous gift to offer unprepared hearts. For when the curtain truly falls, one sees that all solidity was illusion, that forms are movements of the same invisible sea. Your eye and mind, your world and your body, all become like waves dancing upon still water. You realize there is no separate river flowing through creation, only the ocean pretending to move. This realization liberates the one ready for it, but terrifies the one still clinging to identity. To speak of it to such a person is to shake the ground beneath their feet. That is why Ibn Arabi said, "The wine of unity must be poured only into cups that can hold it. For the truth of oneness, when spoken to the unprepared, becomes poison instead of honey." So guard your seeing until it ripens into gentleness. Let silence teach where words would burn. The wise know that not every truth must be told. Some must be lived until their fragrance, not their speech, awakens others. When the veils begin to thin, you see that what you called yourself was never a fixed thing. Your anxieties, your plans, your carefully built identity, they pass like clouds across the wide sky of the soul. But to the one still living inside the illusion of separation, this sounds terrifying. It sounds like annihilation, like saying nothing matters, or we are dust. Yet what is actually meant is the opposite, that everything is God's movement, and therefore everything is sacred. Once I spoke to a man about this truth, that the self he guards so carefully is not truly his. He grew angry. What do you mean I am not real? I think, I feel, I remember. He thought I was denying his worth when, in fact, I was revealing his vastness. For he is not an isolated being in a cage of flesh. He is the breath of the divine taking a momentary form, but he could not hear it. His ears were still tuned to the music of me and mine. This is why the Gnostics, the Araphon, veil the deepest truths. They know that the wine of oneness cannot be poured into an unbaked cup. It must be sipped slowly, with reverence, for it can either intoxicate with love or shatter the vessel. The reality of fauna, the dissolving of self, is mercy to the ready and madness to the unprepared. Thus Ibn Arabi said, "The truth unveils only to hearts strong enough to bear its radiance." The masters teach that emptiness is not a void of meaning, but a fullness too vast for thought. The nothing they speak of is the hidden face of the everything you seek. Only when the mirror of the heart is cleansed of images does the real reflect in it. Those who cling to form hear this in despair. Those who surrender to the formless hear it and rejoice. And then comes the fifth and most delicate secret: your sense of freedom beyond rules, beyond the moral codes that govern ordinary minds. When the veil lifts completely, you see that laws, customs, and moral systems are agreements, necessary for the world, but not ultimate in truth. For you see that all action, all beings, all breaths are His. And how could there be law between the hand and what it moves? But beware, to speak of this freedom is perilous. The unawakened will hear rebellion where you mean surrender. They will think you've cast off restraint when in truth you have fallen into obedience deeper than law. For when one sees that there is no other, harm becomes impossible. To wound another would be to wound one's own soul. As Ibn Arabi said, "When I saw the one in all, my hands forgot how to strike." This is the true Hurriya, divine freedom. Not freedom from morality, but freedom through understanding. The sage acts with compassion, not because he must, but because he cannot do otherwise. It is his nature, as natural as a flower turning toward light. He does not reject the world's rules. He fulfills their spirit. He pays his debts, honors his word, and walks gently among people. He knows that rebellion without mercy is still ego, and that the truly free are those who live as witnesses, not conquerors. Thus, the realized one becomes like a skilled actor in the divine play, aware it is theater, yet giving his role with full devotion. He knows that to break the illusion carelessly is to ruin the performance for others still learning the story. So he bows, smiles, and speaks softly, playing his part while never forgetting the unseen author behind it all. And so, O seeker, guard these 5 secrets, not out of pride, but out of mercy. The path is not silence for silence's sake. It is silence for love's sake. When the truth is ripe in another, they will taste it through your presence, not your words, your eyes, your calm, your kindness. These will preach louder than any sermon. The wise never speak about what they have seen. They gesture softly. They do not command. They invite. They do not declare. They unveil. Their words are like moonlight on still water, enough to reflect the truth, but never enough to blind the one who looks. They know what was meant when he said, "Speech veils as much as it reveals." For words are but fingers pointing toward the real, and the mistake of the novice is to worship the finger instead of looking where it points. So the Gnostic speaks sparingly, not from fear, but from awe. He knows the beloved cannot be contained in syllables. The deepest teaching is not in what is said, but in what is radiated, in the fragrance of a heart surrendered, in the silence that rests behind the eyes of one who has seen. The truly awakened move through the world like calm rivers, unhurried, nourishing, reflecting the sky without effort. You may not understand their words, but you feel their presence. You sense in them a vastness, a peace that makes no noise, a certainty without arrogance, a light that asks for nothing yet gives endlessly. This is presence, the language of the saints. When the real becomes the center of your being, your very existence becomes a teaching. You no longer need to persuade, for hearts are moved not by argument, but by vibration. People who come near you feel a stillness that whispers, "This soul remembers." They do not know what it is, yet they long for it. This is how the divine awakens through his servants, silently, naturally, without display. So keep your awakening veiled in humility. Do not speak as a teacher standing above others, but as a seeker among seekers, one beggar showing another where bread was found. For as Ibn Arabi wrote, "The one who is found finds only the finder himself." You are not the awakener. You are the awakened instrument through which the awakening itself moves. The same light that stirred in your heart stirs in every heart. It is not you who awaken others. It is the beloved revealing himself through you. And if someone comes to you with true readiness, with the thirst of one who no longer seeks ideas, but being itself, then speak, but speak gently with compassion. Speak as one echo of a truth that was never yours to begin with. Let your words fall like rain upon dry soil, soft, nourishing, without force. Because the greatest secret, the one all travelers discover in the end, is that there is no journey. There is no distance to cross. The destination was never somewhere else. As Ibn Arabi said, the end is folded into the beginning, and the seeker is the sought. We were never far from the truth, only playing this luminous game of forgetting and remembering. Each moment, the divine looks through countless eyes and pretends not to know himself, so that through love, he might come to know himself again. So be still, be kind. Live your awakening as a fragrance, not a speech. And trust, for the real awakens through all of us. Each in our appointed time, each in our own radiant way. There is nowhere to reach, for we have never left. We are already home. We have always been home.